I have another question. Why do some words literally sound like their meaning? Like the word squish?
And only here on 11 Alive, days of unanswered phone calls lead to a discovery that no family should ever face.
Absolutely. So a young woman was found dead in her Atlanta apartment, but now her brother wants answers. So he flew all the way across the country to try to find out what really happened to his sister. But now he says no one is listening to him. 11 Alive's Angelina Salcido is live right now at Atlanta Police Headquarters. So Angelina, you spoke with her family and a private investigator they hired, and they believe this death is suspicious, right?
Yeah, 27-year-old Josephine, Tarwai's family tells me that her death is no accident after they found evidence inside of her apartment. And they tell me that investigators could actually be standing in the way of the answers they need.
A locked apartment door, 2 days of unanswered calls. Then, on September 30th, 2025, an apartment in Atlanta, Georgia, 27-year-old Josephine Josie Tarwai was found dead. The official ruling: no crime, no cause of death made public, no charges filed. But the scene tells a different story. Evidence of damage, broken nails, signs of physical trauma, and a disturbed lock on her door. Close contacts say Josie had recently expressed fear of being watched. The timeline for her disappearance, the gap between her last contact and the welfare check, remains unclear. This is where the story begins, at the intersection of what was declared and what remains hidden. Stay with us as we unravel the shocking story and uncover the heartbreaking details of what led to this senseless loss. Before we begin, let us know in the comments, where are you watching from? And what are your thoughts as the story unfolds? Welcome to True Crime Tales, where we reveal the crimes that shock communities and the secrets hidden behind closed doors. These are real people, real events, real consequences. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Now, let's begin. Josephine Josie Tarwai was born and raised in Minnesota, where she grew up in a close-knit family environment. Her upbringing was structured around strong family ties, cultural values, and a stable support system. Those who knew her during childhood describe her as focused and academically driven. Throughout her early years, she maintained consistent academic performance, eventually earning recognition that would shape her educational path. As a student, Tarwai became an ACT 6 Scholar, a leadership and scholarship program designed for diverse, high-achieving students. This achievement highlighted both her academic potential and her leadership qualities. She pursued her higher education at Bethel University, where she successfully completed her studies and obtained her degree. Her academic record and community involvement positioned her for multiple career opportunities. She expressed interest in entrepreneurship, beauty services, and media content creation, noting these fields as areas where she believed she could establish long-term stability and independence. After graduating from Bethel University, Tarwai made the decision to relocate from Minnesota to Atlanta, Georgia. Her move was intentional and career-driven. She developed a growing interest in creative entrepreneurship, particularly in the beauty industry, and believed Atlanta offered a more suitable market for expansion. The city's diverse population, rising beauty scene, and opportunities for content creators aligned with her career goals. One of her primary motivations for relocating was to expand her nail business. Tarwai had already begun building a reputation for producing high-quality nail work, and she recognized potential to establish a larger clientele in a metropolitan area. Additionally, she wanted to strengthen her presence in digital media by creating content that combined beauty techniques, personal branding, and lifestyle elements. Upon moving to Atlanta, she secured an apartment at the Shamoy complex. Living alone allowed her to maintain independence and manage her schedule without interference. Her living arrangement also afforded her the privacy needed for both personal and professional activities, including filming content, hosting virtual sessions, and meeting clients in controlled settings. Professionally, Tarwai operated as a nail technician who had gained recognition for attention to detail, consistent quality, and precision. She attracted a loyal client base that continued to grow as her work circulated online. Her skills placed her among up-and-coming beauty professionals in the Atlanta area. Simultaneously, she cultivated an online identity under the name Josie Daisy. Her content typically consisted of soft-spoken videos, beauty demonstrations, nail designs, and lifestyle content. Followers noted that she maintained a calm presentation style and controlled aesthetic. One notable component of her online activity was her refusal to geotag locations or share real-time updates. She implemented this as a deliberate privacy measure, limiting exposure to large audiences who could potentially track her movements. In addition to her beauty and social media work, Tarwai hosted a podcast. Her episodes often center around themes such as self-care, personal growth, mental clarity, and maintaining balance in daily life. Her goal was to create accessible discussions while also decorating her brand with additional layers of relatability and depth. Despite her public presence, Tarwai's personal life remained private. She was ambitious but careful in her interactions, revealing only selective details about her routines and relationships. Her social circle consisted of a small number of close friends who later became key figures in piecing together her final known movements. Her privacy extended to her digital habits. She frequently delayed posting content until hours or days after events had occurred. She avoided capturing identifiable surroundings and rarely allowed viewers to see the exterior of her apartment or any location that might compromise her safety. These habits would later be seen as significant given concerns she expressed before her death. In the weeks leading up to her final days, Tarwai expressed concerns to multiple friends about her safety. She confided that she believed someone was following or watching her. These conversations were described as direct statements rather than passing comments. Friends reported that she seemed increasingly unsettled, often referencing a persistent sense of being observed. Her behavior during this period reflected a noticeable shift. Although she had always been cautious, her level of alertness increased. According to those around her, she exhibited signs of heightened paranoia. This included checking her surroundings more frequently, being hesitant to leave her apartment, and shortening her time outdoors. Despite these fears, there is no public record of Tarwai filing a formal police report. None of the available information indicates she reached out to law enforcement or building security regarding a potential stalker. Her choice not to report may have resulted from uncertainty, lack of evidence, or a belief that the situation would not be taken seriously. Changes in her routine also became apparent. She altered her typical patterns by avoiding going out alone and preferring to stay indoors later in the evening. Friends noted that she declined invitations, reduced her social schedule, and spent more time isolated in her apartment. Her online presence shifted as well. She posted less frequently, and many of her conversations grew more inward-facing. Discussions with close contacts increasingly focused on fear, uncertainty, and distrust of her surroundings. She spoke more cautiously about her movements and refused to share any future plans or locations. On September 26 and 27, 2025, Tarwai engaged in what appeared to be routine activity. Her online presence was limited, but not unusual. Friends who interacted with her during this period observed that she seemed distracted or uneasy. She responded to messages but appeared preoccupied, reinforcing earlier concerns about her fear of being watched. On September 28, 2025, communication with Tarwai stopped. Family members attempted to reach her, but their calls and messages went unanswered. This immediate silence was alarming to them because she was known for maintaining consistent communication, especially with family. Her abrupt lack of response was identified as a major concern. As hours passed with no contact, her family in Minnesota escalated their concerns and requested assistance. They contacted Minnesota authorities, notifying them of the situation and requesting a welfare check. Minnesota authorities relayed the information to Atlanta authorities for action. The first major red flag emerged when the welfare check did not take place on September 28th. Despite the concern expressed by her family and the urgency of the request, the check was delayed. This delay remains a critical point in understanding the timeline of her final hours, as no official explanation has been publicly provided. On September 30th, 2025, Atlanta police conducted a welfare check at Josephine Josie Tarwai's apartment at the Shamoy complex. The events that unfolded from the moment officers arrived remain marked by contradictory accounts and inconsistent explanations. What occurred inside the apartment, how officers gained entry, and what they observed after opening the door formed the central points of confusion in the earliest stage of this case. According to the family, police gave multiple versions of how they accessed Josie's apartment. In the first account, officers stated that the apartment door appeared to be barricaded from the inside, preventing immediate entry. This explanation suggested the possibility of an obstruction or deliberate blockage. However, in a later version, the family was informed that no barricade was discovered, and nothing obstructed the officers once they approached the door. A separate explanation referenced forced entry. The family was told that police broke into the unit after receiving no response, implying the use of physical force, tools, or breaching methods. This claim indicated a scenario in which officers believed immediate entry was necessary. But in an entirely different version, officers stated they used a master key provided by the apartment management, and no forced entry was required. These four conflicting descriptions, barricaded door, no barricade, forced entry, and master key entry, were never unified into a single confirmed sequence. No timeline was clarified, and no consistent documentation was provided to reconcile the contradictions. As a result, the first moments of the investigation contained significant uncertainty. The confusion raised early concerns about documentation, communication, and whether proper procedure was followed during the initial response. Once officers entered the apartment, the reported condition of the scene raised further questions. Josie was found in her bed, unclothed and alone. There were no immediate visible signs indicating a medical emergency, such as seizure activity, respiratory distress, or injury consistent with accidental collapse. Nothing in the initial reporting established a clear cause of death. However, indicators of physical disturbance were noted. Josie's fingernails were found broken. This detail was particularly significant because she was a professional nail technician known for maintaining her nails meticulously. Broken nails suggested either physical struggle, sudden pressure, or abrupt contact with surface. Her body reportedly showed bruises and scratches. The placement, age, and pattern of these injuries were not officially described, but their presence created questions about whether physical force had occurred prior to her death. The apartment door lock was also noted as damaged or malfunctioning. According to later observations, the lock did not operate as expected, raising the possibility that it had been tampered with or forced at some point. Whether this occurred before or during the police entry was not clarified. The bedroom environment also showed signs of disturbance. Bedding appeared disordered in a way not typical of natural sleep, and the room layout suggested movement or activity that had not been explained. No clear medical signs, no organized cause of death narrative, and several disturbance indicators left the condition of the scene open to interpretation from the very beginning. Despite these irregularities, police concluded the case as no crime. Officers informed the family that no evidence of foul play was found at the scene. No immediate cause of death was provided publicly. No preliminary medical explanation was released. The lack of detail in the initial findings, combined with the unexplained physical indicators, contributed to early skepticism. The family received notification containing limited information. The details shared were nonspecific, with no breakdown of injuries, room condition, or entry method. This vagueness intensified concerns about the adequacy and accuracy of the investigation conducted at the scene. After receiving the news, Josie's parents and siblings traveled from Minnesota to Atlanta. Their objective was to obtain clear answers regarding the circumstances of her death. Upon meeting with police, the family expressed immediate concern over the lack of consistent details. The contradictory explanations about how the apartment was entered were among the first issues raised. The sudden death of a healthy 27-year-old woman, combined with physical injuries described by the private investigator, prompted the family to request further clarification and review. During discussions with authorities, the family reported that the entry narrative changed multiple times. They were told different things by different individuals, and no official documentation was presented to reconcile the variations. Police also suggested a medical explanation. Officers allegedly mentioned the possibility of a diabetic episode. The family refuted this immediately, stating that Josie did not have diabetes. No medical records or official autopsy information supporting this claim were provided. The shifting explanations further undermined confidence in the handling of the case. The absence of confirmed cause of death combined with mention of a medical condition the victim did not have, contributed to public doubt. The family disputed the no-crime ruling for several reasons. Physical injuries, broken fingernails, bruises, and scratches, delayed welfare check, a 2-day gap between the family concern and police entry, lack of transparency, no consistent explanation from authorities, conflicting investigative details, multiple versions of the apartment entry, and no clear cause of death. Their concerns led to broader public attention, generating discussions about investigative standards and police communication practices. The family hired a private investigator who examined the apartment after the body was removed. The investigator documented several key observations: broken fingernails inconsistent with Josie's usual appearance and work, visible bruises and scratches, with no explanation provided by authorities, unnatural positioning of the body, suggesting it did not align with a peaceful or medically induced death, disturbed bedding and room environment, indicating movement or struggle. These findings contradicted the early conclusion of no crime. The investigator also reported problems with the apartment door lock. It appeared jammed or possibly tampered with. Several interpretations were considered: forced entry before or after the incident, an individual entering and attempting to leave without detection, mechanical malfunction, though considered unlikely given the surrounding context. The lock problem aligned with the contradictory police explanations. According to the investigator, attempts were made to present collected evidence and photographs to the police. She stated that officers did not show interest and did not conduct follow-up action. No additional evidence collection was performed, and no further inquiry regarding the lock, injuries, or disturbances was initiated. This lack of engagement became one of the strongest points of criticism from the family and public observers. Following the discovery of Josephine Josie Tarwai in her Atlanta apartment on September 30th, 2025, the case immediately presented multiple gaps that remain unresolved. These gaps involve the autopsy findings, potential security footage, her digital activity before death, and the 2-day interval during which her whereabouts were unknown. Together, these omissions form the central obstacles preventing a clear understanding of what occurred inside the apartment between September 28th and September 30th. The first and most significant missing element is the autopsy report. As of the latest updates, no full autopsy findings have been publicly released by the medical examiner's office. There's been no confirmation of an official cause of death, no toxicology summary, and no documented explanation regarding visible injuries reported by the private investigator. Without these details, there is no medical confirmation of whether the death was natural, accidental, or the result of external factors. The absence of an autopsy report prevents evaluation of internal injuries, defensive wounds, substances in her system, or any physiological abnormalities. It also restricts the ability to verify or challenge theories proposed by authorities, including early statements that suggested a possible medical episode. Until a formal cause of death is documented and released, the circumstances of her death remain indeterminate. A second major gap involves the building's security systems. No security footage has been publicly disclosed that shows Josie entering or leaving the building during her final days, nor any footage that accounts for individuals entering the vicinity of her apartment. There's been no official confirmation on whether functioning cameras existed in hallways, entrances, parking areas, or elevators of the Shamoy complex. Key questions remain unanswered. Did the building have functioning cameras at the time? There is no public record confirming the presence or operational status of surveillance equipment. If cameras existed, were they reviewed by investigators? There is no statement from law enforcement confirming whether footage was collected, examined, or found to be unusable. Who had access to footage? It is not known whether only building management, law enforcement, or both had access. It is also unclear if footage was overwritten before requests were made. The lack of security evidence prevents reconstruction of apartment access patterns, potential visitors, or signs of forced or unauthorized entry. Security footage should confirm or dismiss theories involving a stalker, an intruder, or suspicious movements near her unit. Josie's digital records represent another missing data set. There is no official information regarding her last phone activity, last text messages, or any social media logins in the hours leading up to her death. Important digital indicators remain unknown. Her final outgoing or incoming messages, no confirmation exists regarding the last person she communicated with. Phone activity timestamps. It is unclear when the device was last unlocked or used. Social media access logs. There is no available information about posts, drafts, deleted messages, or login attempts. Without this data, investigators and the public cannot assess whether she attempted to call for help, whether she had communications of potential threat, or whether her device shows signs of tampering. Digital evidence typically forms a significant portion of modern investigative timelines. Its absence leaves a complete void in understanding her final movements and state of mind. Between September 28th, when family and friends reported losing contact with her, and September 30th, when police entered the apartment, there is no verified record what occurred inside her residence. This 2-day window is the most critical period in the case. Several unanswered questions remain. What happened inside the apartment? Without autopsy or digital evidence, there is no clear indication of the sequence of events. Did anyone enter the apartment during these 2 days? Conflicting statements from police regarding whether the door was locked, barricaded, or accessed with a key complicate the timeline. Was there a struggle? Reports of broken fingernails, bruises, and scratches suggest possible physical conflict, but none of this has been officially acknowledged or dismissed. The absence of verifiable activity logs, door access records, or witness accounts prevents the establishment of a precise timeline. In the absence of confirmed medical or forensic conclusions, several theories remain possible. These are presented neutrally without assumption or emotional interpretation. One theory is that she experienced a sudden medical emergency while alone. An unknown medical condition could have caused collapse during sleep. Authorities suggested a potential diabetic episode, though her family denies she had diabetes. Problems with this theory include visible injuries on her body, broken fingernails inconsistent with passive collapse, reports of a malfunctioning or disturbed door lock, her prior statements about feeling stalked. There is no medical documentation available to support or contradict this theory. Another possibility is accidental death due to environmental hazards or accidental exposure to harmful substances. No public statements indicate evidence of toxic exposure, but without toxicology results, it cannot be dismissed or confirmed. There are no public records or testimonies suggesting suicidal behavior. No note history or communication supports this scenario. Injuries described by the private investigator do not align with typical self-inflicted patterns. But without official records, conclusions cannot be made. This theory considers the possibility of another person entering the apartment. Potential indicators include reports of bruises and scratches, broken fingernails suggesting defensive actions, door lock issues indicating tampering or forced access, her prior concerns about being watched. Without security footage, access logs, or autopsy data, foul play cannot be confirmed or ruled out. This theory focuses on investigative inconsistencies rather than cause of death. Key factors include 2-day welfare check delay, contradictory police statements, lack of immediate evidence collection, quick no crime conclusion before medical results were released. These gaps raise questions about procedural thoroughness, but do not establish motive or foul play. Local Atlanta news outlets documented the family's public demands for clarity. Reports highlighted inconsistencies in police communication and missing investigative steps. True crime media examined the case, focusing on stalking concerns among women living alone, risks faced by content creators, lack of transparent investigative updates. These discussions amplified national interest. Community responses included concern over potential gaps in welfare check procedures, criticism of inconsistent official narratives, support for the family's call for transparency. Social media amplified these reactions, leading to increased scrutiny of the case. The circumstances surrounding the death of Josephine Josie, Tarwai bring attention to several broader issues affecting public safety, law enforcement procedures, and digital era risks. These themes are relevant beyond the individual case and reflect recurring patterns documented in other incidents involving young women, online creators, and law enforcement responses. Cases involving women who live alone in apartments continue to highlight structural vulnerabilities in residential security systems. Many apartment complexes depend on standard locks, limited surveillance cameras, and inconsistent maintenance practices. When locks malfunction or when access is loosely controlled, residents become more exposed to unauthorized entry. Situations involving delayed welfare checks further increase risks by extending the period in which potential evidence may be lost or compromised. In this case, reports of malfunctioning or disturbed lock raise questions about general building security. When an apartment entry system is not functioning properly, it becomes difficult to determine whether unauthorized access occurred and at what time. The lack of immediate clarity about how the apartment was entered, whether through a forced entry or by use of master key, demonstrates how gaps in building documentation can hinder investigations. For women living alone, consistent maintenance of entry points, reliable security monitoring, and accurate access log systems are essential. The absence of these systems limits investigators' ability to establish timelines or identify possible threats. Stalking behavior and digital exposure pose increasing risks for individuals with online presence, especially content creators. Modern forms of stalking often involve online observation, data tracking, and monitoring of public posts. Even without geotagging, content creators leave digital patterns that may reveal routines, preferences, or general locations. When individuals already report feelings of being watched or followed, the risks become more significant. In this case, Josie reportedly limited her online exposure by avoiding geotagging and delaying posts. These practices reflect common precautionary measures used by creators to reduce unwanted tracking. Despite these measures, concerns about being watched were reportedly communicated to friends. This highlights the limitations of digital precautions when offline surveillance, physical monitoring, or targeted attention is occurring. The incident underscores the importance for content creators to maintain strict privacy strategies, such as withholding real-time activities, limiting personal information, and avoiding location-revealing backgrounds. However, when threats extend beyond digital environments, law enforcement involvement and formal documentation become critical. Without official reports or documented concerns, the risks remain unaddressed, and investigators have fewer reference points when examining suspicious circumstances. The case draws further attention to issues involving law enforcement consistency, timely action, and evidence handling. When police reports shift or present conflicting information, it undermines the credibility of investigative processes and reduces public confidence. Conflicting statements regarding the condition of the apartment door, whether it was barricaded, left unsecured, or accessed with a key, show the impact of inconsistent documentation. When official narratives change, establishing the facts becomes more difficult, and the reliability of investigative conclusions is compromised. The delay between the family's request for a welfare check and the police's eventual entry into the apartment raises procedural questions. Welfare checks are time-sensitive because delays can influence survival outcomes, evidence preservation, and case clarity. Without a clear explanation for the delay, the timeline becomes uncertain, and investigators must work with limited verified information. Reports indicating that potential evidence, such as photographs of injuries and damage, was offered to law enforcement but not processed create further concerns. Proper evidence handling requires immediate collection, documentation, and chain of custody procedures. When such steps are unclear or absent, it becomes difficult to reconstruct events or validate claims of struggle, forced entry, or foul play. The family continues to seek clarification regarding the circumstances of Josie's death. Their position centers on requests for complete transparency from law enforcement and release of final investigative reports, including autopsy findings. They have maintained pressure on the authorities by making public statements, participating in media interviews, and sharing inconsistencies they encountered during their inquiries. The family's objective is to obtain verified information that explains the physical evidence, the timeline of events, and the basis for the official determination of no crime. They continue to request full disclosure from the medical examiner's office and the police department to resolve unanswered questions. Community members, online advocates, and various social media groups have expressed concern about the lack of clear information surrounding the case. Advocacy groups urge officials to reopen or expand the investigation, citing the conflicting accounts, reported injuries, and the absence of a public autopsy report. There are ongoing calls for external review to ensure that all evidence was properly documented and evaluated. Several supporters have emphasized the importance of releasing the autopsy results to the public. Without this information, independent reviewers and the community cannot determine whether the official conclusion aligns with the physical findings. Several key details remain unresolved. No publicly released autopsy report has confirmed the medical cause of death. Photographs reportedly showing broken nails, bruises, and scratches have no formal explanation. There is no verified timeline of events during the 2-day period in which she did not respond and before the welfare check was completed. Although she expressed concern about being watched, there is no confirmed identification of any individual who may have been following or monitoring her. Variations in statements regarding apartment access and scene conditions remain unresolved. As of the most recent information available, the case remains officially classified as a no-crime incident. Law enforcement agencies have not reopened the investigation, nor have they issued updated statements addressing public concerns. The medical examiner's findings have not been publicly released, leaving the cause of death unknown. The family maintains that foul play is likely based on the injuries, the apartment conditions, and the inconsistencies in explanations provided to them. They continue to request transparency, release of complete reports, and a clearer account of the investigative process. With the absence of official clarification, the case remains unresolved. Central questions remain unanswered. What occurred inside the apartment during the days she was unreachable? Why was the welfare check delayed after the family's initial request? Was anyone monitoring her in the days leading to her death? Do the injuries indicate a struggle? Was critical evidence overlooked or dismissed? Until these questions are addressed through verified documentation, the full truth about what happened to Josephine Josie Tarwai remains unknown. If you found this story as gripping and heartbreaking as we did, don't forget to like this video and share it with others. And if you want to hear more true crime stories that uncover the mysteries behind these tragic events, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell. You won't want to miss our latest stories, updates, and discussions. Thank you for joining us on this journey to seek justice and explore the truth. Together, we can make a difference. Until next time, stay safe and stay aware.